Hi and welcome to this video about substituting executables. Let's see what I mean by that. So first let's take a look at Process Explorer. We know that Process Explorer has this option to replace Task Manager. And so the question is, what happens when I actually select this? And now I press Ctrl-Shift-Escape or something to launch Task Manager, and Process Explorer is the one that's being launched. How does that really work? So one option would be to take the original Task Manager from System32, copy that to some backup directory, and then copy Process Explorer's executable to the System32 directory, and then rename that to taskmgr.exe. However, if we take a look at System32, we'll see that Task Manager is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. So here's a taskmgr.exe. It's still here. And even if I try to run it just by double-clicking it, we'll still get Process Explorer. And even if I close that, it doesn't matter. I can double-click Task Manager and we're still going to get Process Explorer. And apparently somehow we managed to replace Task Manager by Process Explorer, which is kind of weird. I mean, we don't necessarily expect that to normally occur. And so I want to show you how to do that, which is a fairly simple thing to do, but could be useful in several cases. So the way to do that is to use a tool called gflags. This is one of the tools from the debugging tools for Windows package. And what this tool actually does is manipulate the registry in that respect, which means we can also go to the registry and do these things ourselves. And I'll show you that in a moment. So here's what that looks like. This global flags tool is allowing us to change something called global flags, which is a 32 or 64-bit number, in fact, today, that represents various flags we can set. Some of them are set here using some checkboxes that are going to be written to the registry in a certain location, and then there are some flags we can change dynamically, but what I want to show you here is what we can do on a per image file. So let's see what happens when we try to replace Task Manager. What did actually occur here? If I type taskmgr.exe, and it's important to add the extension and press tab, we can see that there is a debugger here, that a value that points to where Process Explorer actually is. And this is the secret of making that kind of substitution. Every time you launch something that has the name taskmgr.exe, notice there is no path here. So just the executable name is the thing that matters. Then you can say that something else should be run in its place. Here's another simple example. Let's go ahead and use something simple like Notepad. So normally if I just run Notepad, you'll notice that Notepad launches. Here's my Notepad here. But if I go ahead and use notepad.exe, press tab again, so we want to see what's going on with Notepad, we can add a debugger here and write anything we want, say even calc, and click apply. Once I do that, you'll notice that I want to launch Notepad, but what I actually get is calculator. And no matter how I try to launch Notepad, I'll still get calculator. Here's Notepad here in the System32 directory. Let me double click it and we'll still get a calculator. So this thing works always, and it's based on the executable only, not on a full path. You might be wondering what's the official use for this mechanism, and as the name suggests, debugger is supposed to be, in theory, a debugger. That is some executable which is actually a debugger, something like WinDebug, Visual Studio, or some other debugger. And the idea here is that we want that to debug a process that might be launched out of our control. An example would be a Windows service. A Windows service is launched by the Service Control Manager. It's not really under our control when it actually launches. And if I want to debug the initial code of the service, then I might want to use this option to specify a debugger path. And then the executable itself is going to be passed as a parameter to the debugger, so the debugger can create the process and attach to it. You might be wondering further still, how come the debugger can do that? I mean, the debugger creates the process with that executable, then again, the replacement should kick in. But in fact, there's a little thing that the debugger does, which is adding the debug underscore process parameter to the create process call, and this actually creates the real executable. So that's a way to kind of get around that. But this is not the normal case. If you look in the registry, where is all that thing stored? So under H local machine software, Microsoft, Windows NT, current version, and then image file execution options, this is where we see all the executables that have various settings attached to them based on these global flags and some other options. So we should find things here. So here's tax MGR, here's the debugger that we've just seen. If you're looking for Notepad, the Notepad should be here as well. You can see debugger here points to calc. And if you want to remove all of that to get back to a normal Notepad, we just need to uncheck here, click apply, and it's gone. For Process Explorer, of course, we can change that using the option here. What it actually does is writes that information to the registry or removes that from the registry.